Welcome to the Golf Podcast Live, brought to you by ECS, Evolve Creative Solutions. I'm your host, Rafael Kalamat from Mississauga in the GTA. With us, as always, is Michael Bleackley in Vancouver. Lots to talk about today. It's the end of the Florida swing. We have the players. Sam Burns takes Valspar. We're going to talk about funny and embarrassing golf stories, as usual. Top 10 topics. Cam Smith, possibly. But before we get started, we have a very special guest. PGA Tour winner, three-time World Cup competitor, Cambridge, Ontario native, Mr. Ian Leggatt. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is fun. Nice to sort of be back in Canada. I guess is as close as we can get right now.
It's a virtual visit for you. Thanks again for coming. This is fantastic.
And the reason why we mention that for our listeners, Ian looks really warm because he's out in Florida. And, we're out here in Canada, still not on the links. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Ian. We've got Zoomers, Zetters, I should say, and millennials who watch this show who may not know who Ian Leggatt is. And so tell us your journey in golf, how you got started, and where you are today. Maybe a Cole's Notes version of that.
Yeah, geez, my Cole's Notes might be longer than most, but yeah, I grew up in Cambridge. I moved to South Africa when I was a young kid, and then started to play a little bit of golf there with my dad. When we moved back, I took up the game, lived about a mile and a half from a public golf course, Push and Slate Golf Club in Cambridge. Back then it was called Hespeler, Ontario, before the three towns amalgamated, and just rode my bike out there and had a really nice junior program. And it was a great, a shortish kind of a golf course that was great for juniors, and didn't lose a lot of golf balls. And it was a great place to kind of learn the game. And from there, I moved over to the private club in town when I was about 12 or 13. I'm still a member there to this day at Golf Country Club. Don't get back very often anymore, but it was a great place to learn to play the game. And interestingly enough, Mike Weir and I have had this conversation in the past about how fortunate we were to grow up on a really short golf course, because really taught us how to score, taught us how to play the game, shoot low numbers, make lots of birdies, which, I tell parents this all the time is, put your kids on the furthest up tees you possibly can, and get them learning to shoot low scores, because they'll take that that mentality back with them as they start to hit the ball further and move back sets of tees. So I think by both Golf Country Club being a little bit of a shorter golf course, and growing up at Push and Slate, which was, I think, around 5,000 yards or so when I started to play the game, was a huge advantage for me to learn to shoot a lot of low scores. From there, I went to school in the U.S., was a two-time All-American, turned pro in 90. I played the Canadian Tour for 9 or 10 years, and I drove my car all the way from Texas to Victoria, BC, and all across Canada 9 times. So Anybody who thinks that playing professional golf is glamorous, staying in motels for $30 a night, trying to share rooms and keep costs down low was not as glamorous as people think, but it was a moment in my life for sure that I appreciate and value in getting to really see a lot of our country in a different perspective than a lot of people do. Sure, it's hotels and golf courses and highways, but it was pretty impressive. So, and then, in 99, I got my tour card through the buy.com tour. And then I played, close to 9-10 years on the PGA Tour, some injury years in there. After I won in 2002, I had 3 different hand surgeries that kind of forced me into retirement, and that got me to the end of my golf career, where it just got really, really difficult to play the game the way I wanted to play it, or had learned how to play it. So the mental and the physical were no longer lining up for me, and I had to kind of step away from the game. From there I went to work at Wasserman as a sports agent consultant in their golf division for 3 years, and got tricked into the job, as I've always said, at the Summit, and spent 8 years as the director of golf general manager there, and did a lot of great things. I spent 11 months at St. George's as their general manager before being offered an opportunity to come back to the U.S. where my kids are, work in a market that really is about, full season golf in Miami Beach at Leggatt Country Club. So, and that's where I'm at to this day. So if that is a Cole's Notes version, because my life in golf is probably closer to Moby Dick than Cole's Notes. So
it's a pretty amazing journey, and I think the experience of driving from tour stop to tour stop must have been amazing. Like I drove across the country with my wife a couple summers ago, the first COVID summer, and took advantage of the opportunity because I never have. And you're kind of living like the golfer's dream is, jumping in the car and chasing what we love, this crazy game. But I guess I wanted to dive into your injury because, I can empathize with you for having to hang it up. It's something we're passionate about, and that's what's clearly driven you. So after the surgeries and, how did you handle that particular situation, having to give up this game and transition into your roles now?
Well, it's interesting. I remember the exact moment it happened, and I was, I love to hit golf balls. I was a very, very hard worker at pretty much everything I do in my life. I'm I think inherently a hardworking individual, and I loved hitting golf balls. I loved hitting golf balls more than I liked playing. I loved competing. It's interesting because I just came back from LA. I was out there with some members a couple weekends ago, and I was playing in a charity pro-am I got invited to at Riviera. It's the Monday after the tournament. So yeah, I'd never played LA Country Club. I've never played Bel Air. So I got an opportunity. The amount of times that I played at Riviera and been to California, I've never played LACC. So I got an opportunity to do that. For me personally, the practice, I wasn't getting out of it what I used to get out of it. I was putting in the time, I was putting in the effort. I just could not find, kind of the old Ian feels and swing that I had. And like I said, the mental and the physical weren't lining up. And I think it really started to wear on me that the time and the effort I was putting into the game, I was not reaping any of the benefits that I used to, where back in the past, the harder I worked, the better I got. And I was really seeing that evolve over a 10-year period of playing professional golf all over the world. Every year I was getting a little bit better. And not only in the way that I played the game, but the way that I believed in myself and I could play the game. So I was standing on the 11th tee, one shot off the lead in the Argentinian Open. I was playing with Tom Lehman and Angel Cabrera. And I remember thinking to myself, I should be really nervous right now. I should have those moments where I'm, excited to win a golf tournament or an opportunity to win a golf tournament. And I was actually wanting it to end more than I wanted to compete. And I said to myself, as soon as that ended, I think I finished third or something. I put my clubs away, and now I'd lost my full status at this time due to the injuries on the PGA Tour. I still had status in the winners category. I still had full status of being able to play on, I think that time it was the Nationwide Tour still. And I said, I'm gonna put the clubs away and decide when I'm gonna come back, when I want, if I really truly miss the game. And 3 months later, my clubs were still in the travel cover. So it was at that moment I needed to find something, because I love the game. I needed to find some way to stay connected to the game. My agent, Brad Peltier at IMG, called me up, who's now, managing Predator Ridge up in Kelowna. And, I said, I got to find something I got to do. And that led me to Wasserman. So I got back into the game in that perspective. So it was difficult. But about 3 or 4 months later, I decided, hey, I'm going to start playing golf with buddies. I lived in North Carolina at the time. And to put away the the expectations, and kind of put them in a box and, shuffle them away to learn to play the game just for fun. It took me a while.
Mm-hmm.
It did. It was frustrating to hit horrible shots, to, play golf like most people do once or twice a week. So, but once I got over that, it took me a little while, to tell you the truth. I enjoy the game probably as much now, more than ever. I love playing golf with all different kinds of people, and it doesn't matter. I love playing golf, with my wife, and I like playing golf with my members. Doesn't matter whether you're a +2 or a 22. I enjoy being out there and just sharing the game with other people, maybe my moments in the game or just their excitement to hit a great shot. I get great joy in that as much as I ever have. So.
Well, I love that, Ian. Thanks for sharing all of that. When I look back, when I was younger, 38 years ago when I picked up the game, I'm 48 now, I too played on shorter courses. And Mike and I talk about this, over the last 25 years, our friendship, we've talked about how we enjoyed working on our games and introducing people to the game on a par 3 course or a corporate style course. That's really cool that you bring that up. You also brought up the Canadian Tour. One of my mentors and somebody I worked with for a couple of years was Bob Boschman, who was on tour. He started the Can Tour, and it's so nice to hear the Canadian journeyman story, because we always hear the American story from our guests in the past and the people that we talked to. Very neat that you're at St. George's. Obviously, the Canadian Open happening there this year, but I just want to go back to the Tucson Open. It was a long journey for you to become a professional. You went through, I believe, 2 Q schools in the 2000s. And before you won that tournament, tell us about how your game led up to that point where you win your first PGA Tour event, because it's a big deal. Mike and I went through some statistics last week, and we're saying, how many Canadian men have actually won on tour? And so we went back as far back as we could go. PGA Tour has been around since 1929, so close to 100 years, and some events before that. There's 17 guys. 17 Canadian men have won an event. I'm saying, this guy, we got to make him legendary. Get him on the show, tell everybody what he did with the Tucson, because it's a big deal to win on tour.
Yeah, I think, it was a long journey. I never really gave up, because I fortunately for me, in the early start, my parents couldn't afford for me to play professional golf. So I was lucky enough to meet someone in Texas, that sponsored me in the early days. And then after about, I think it was 3 years in, that relationship had ended. And I was on my own. And I went over to South Africa with $5,000. I missed at the second stage of tour school again. And, I went over to South Africa with $5,000 in my pocket. And, I had another gentleman that I played golf with in Dallas that paid for my airline ticket. And I had a bit of a backstop. He said to call him if I ever needed any money, but that's all the money I had in my bank account. And I went over there, and I played in the first tournament, made the cut, finished last, lost money after I paid hotel caddy and, probably the $450 or whatever it was I made at that particular time. I did the same thing again the next week. And then I had a huge breakthrough at that point in time. I was playing in the Zimbabwe Open, and I got to play in the last round of the tournament with Nick Price and Simon Hobday. And I finished second or third. I think it was third. And I made, equivalent to about $15,000 at that time. And that's still to this day the biggest check I've ever made in my life. So, that's 10 times what I made in my mind to keep my career going and to know that I can compete. And I remember I eagled the last hole to beat Nick Price by a shot.
Nice. We
became friends at that particular time and are very good friends to this day. He's been a great mentor to me and really helped me in my early days of getting comfortable on the PGA Tour. But I went through, and then I finished, I think, fourth in the South African Open. I ended up finishing fourth on the money list, made, at that particular time, for me, a lot of money to continue my career. And, I went back, I played the Canadian Tour. I think I finished second or third on the money list. And, every year I just, I was always making enough money to get me going to the next tour school, pay all the bills, and not have any kind of financial, restraints of being able to continue to play golf, which unfortunately, a lot of guys walk away or don't get an opportunity to keep chasing because they just run out of cash.
Right.
So, and that's happened with a lot of Canadians. I think we could have had a lot more Canadians on the PGA Tour if they had the financial ability to hang in as long as, sort of Mike Weir and I did. So, I mean, I kind of went all over the place. I played in Asia. I played well there. I played well in South Africa and South America, and, perennially just always finished in the top 10 on the Canadian Tour money list. And I can tell you, I mean, to this day, the friends and the relationships I've created in the game of golf always trump everything I've done. And, from Vancouver all the way across the PEI, I've still got friends from my Canadian Tour days today that I keep in touch with and connect with. And Bob and Maggie back then running the tour together, it was really like a family. And, Maggie was like everybody's mom when we were out there. So, and Bob really managed the tour, under very tight restraints back then, and gave us all a great place to play. And, so I think a lot of people should be, are in debt to Bob and how we got through. And that's just not Ian Leggatt, it's Steve Stricker and, a number, Tim Herron. Yeah. I can think of all the guys we played with back then, Brant Jobe and Craig Perry, and, the list goes on and on and on of guys that I played with on the tour, not to mention, Mike and myself. So that gets us to all the way up to Tucson and finally my first year on tour, I was on my way through the buy.com. I just knew that there was no possible way I couldn't get my tour card if you gave me a full season to play somewhere where I could finish in the top. At that time, it was 15. Putting all your eggs in a basket for 6 rounds, 1 week out of the season is a big ask to have your game in shape at that particular time. Never mind the mounting pressure of tour school. So,
did you win on the buy.com before or after that Tucson win?
That's how I got on tour.
Right.
I made it to the finals of tour school here in Miami, actually at Doral, and I didn't get my tour card, but I finished high enough to have full exempt status on the buy.com tour. So, and that's how it all started. And I, finished 5th on the money list and got on tour. And then my rookie year on tour, right before the tour championship of the buy.com tour, Mike and I both got laser eye surgery at the same time. And I had no issues. I think I finished 3rd or 4th at tour championship. I was seeing great and everything. When the season started, I started to have a regression, and I was really not aware of it, but I was really struggling with my game. I went back, got a touch up. I went through the whole West Coast swing and got shuffled down near the bottom of tour school. So that was a problem for me. Then I ended up getting touch up, and I actually played pretty well all year. And then I think I finished 129 or something on the money list, had another regression, went back, got another touch up, and went back and finished 5th at tour school. And then I won. And then I had another regression in the fall, and I had it done right before I headed over to literally the night before I hopped on a plane to the World Cup to Japan with Mike. And I flew back to Toronto for another laser eye touch up, and everything was great. Mike and I think finished 4th in the World Cup or something like that. Should have won it actually. And then I was off to the race. I really felt I got, right near top 100 players in the world at the end of that season. And then I had a major issue with a hand surgery, that an artery blockage into my right hand. I had to have surgery. That happened just after the event at Riviera. I wasn't able to defend my championship at Tucson because of it. And I had surgery. I missed almost most of that year. I came back too early, had a second injury. So it was a culmination of a few things. And then when I got my hand quite right, I started playing better again. I had a couple top 10s that year, kept my card, felt like I was off to the race. And then I had another hand surgery that was really damaging to just the whole feel of my left hand. And I just continued to struggle until it got to the point where it just wasn't fun anymore. So that ended up.
Do you feel, Ian, that you were kind of overlooked here in Canada because, you won the Tucson Open. It was a big deal. I remember when it happened, except the Canadian national team won gold. Didn't they on the same day? So I don't know if you didn't make page one in Montreal. I remember having to look for the article in the Gazette. And
I mean, I don't look at it in that respect, to be quite honest with you. I've never, and I can honestly say I've never really played the game of golf for, recognition and accolades. And that's just not really who I am. I just did it because I loved it. And, that the win was a byproduct of all my hard work. Any kind of recognition I've gotten in the game of golf is a byproduct of all the hard work that I put into the game. So I'm not a guy who looks back at that and goes, man, that was, a lot of regret that Sidney Crosby and I are good buddies, that he got front page and I got fifth. It doesn't really matter.
But something cool came out of that. I think there's a Wayne Gretzky story in here. We're talking hockey.
Yeah, there was. Wayne used to have a tournament, Wayne Gretzky and Friends, and Wayne and I became friends. Just actually earlier than that event actually happened. And, Wayne's a golfer. He's a golf nut. I saw him just a couple of weeks ago at a club here in Florida. So anyway, we've been friends for a long time. And I got a phone call from him about, on my drive back from Tucson. I lived in Scottsdale at the time, and I drove back from there, and I got there was a voicemail on my phone congratulating me on my win. So, so that was kind of cool. Again, these are the things that I take away from it. I don't take away the, should have got this, should have got that type of thing. What I did get is a win on the PGA Tour that validates all the hard work that I put in. And that's all that really matters to me. I don't look at it that I need to be recognized. I think people that follow the game of golf are very well aware that I'm a winner on the PGA Tour. And, I don't really worry too much about all the other stuff.
Right on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Golfers we're diehards, and you've created a great name for yourself, and as well as a lot of other wins. You won 5 events in your college career, and 1988 Ontario Match Play champion. So you're in the Hall of Fame in Cambridge and Waterloo. So there's there's a lot more than just that PGA Tour win, which is great. But what I really love is that you commented about the relationships that you've made in golf, and I think that's one thing that every golfer can relate to, no matter what your skill level is. The friendships that you make in this game are life lasting, and I know I play a lot of amateur golf, and it's changed my golf circle. I've got dozens of guys I play golf with regularly who are all competitive, and we push each other to keep going. So that's one of the benefits of golf. And the main thing is it's a social game. So let's maybe pivot over into some of the stories in golf right now. What are your thoughts on the LIV events coming with Greg Norman and the global position that the game is? It's been growing globally for a couple decades now. But your thoughts on these 8 events that we're likely to see happen very quickly here?
Yeah, I like it personally. To tell you the truth, I've got a little bit of inside the lodge knowledge on what is going on based on my relationship, with John Kawaja, who's actually sort of managing and running that tour. The way I look at this is I do know that there is a play here for the Saudis to use golf as a catalyst to change the cultural direction of who they are. So I would like to see that happen. If golf is that catalyst that can, change, their culture, then I think we should give them an opportunity. I think there's room for something like this. I think that I wish when I played the game that I got paid every single time I teed it up. I think this gives an opportunity to that. I think that every player on the PGA Tour, once you're on the PGA Tour, you should qualify. No matter whether you played 1 year or 20 years, you should qualify fully for whatever retirement access is out there, which doesn't happen right now. I think that every player on the PGA Tour, no different than any other professional sport, should get paid to play. Now, I mean, I know that there's fans out there that, are going to argue that, Dustin Johnson gets paid X $1 million to carry a TaylorMade bag around, and all the logos on everybody's shirts they're getting paid for. But that has nothing to do with performance. And I think if you qualify to play on the PGA Tour, let's just say you should get $10,000 every month.
Oh.
Yeah, every week, rather, just to tee it up. That should be last place, whether you make the cut or not. Mm-hmm. I don't have a number. I'm just using that as a number. Maybe it should be more than that. Maybe it should be 50,000.
Yeah, some of that PIP or PIP money should be, distributed differently.
That whole thing is an absolute joke. I mean, that's a disgrace to the PGA Tour that they even created a model like that. I mean, I'm actually embarrassed by that as a PGA Tour player, that they would do that in a world right now where, people need help from financial. I've got a foundation in Canada that we haven't been able to run a golf tournament in 3 years. So, and there's charities out there that need help, need funding, and they're going to hand out $40 million to a guy, anybody for that matter,
because Tiger
not
won
even
it.
playing for that matter.
And he doesn't need the money, right?
Need the money. So, I mean, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm glad to hear some honest feedback on that, because the people that are winning all the money on that, they're wealthy beyond belief right now. So this is just like, throwing another $20 their way. It's peanuts when there's other ways they could benefit a lot of people with $50 million, because they've topped it up for this next year. So it is kind of disgusting.
Yeah, I don't like any part of it. So, I mean, I think with the Saudi Super League, I think there's room for it. I think that a new format, which is interesting to me to see how they've laid it out. A lot of thought has gone into it. I wish eventually they're going to give the story behind this league and what they're doing. That from what I understand, they're building 20 golf courses in the next 3 years in Saudi Arabia. They've offered 10,000 memberships to females. So I think we should give them a chance. I mean, I used this analogy the other day, whether it's right or wrong. I just wonder what we would feel about Germans right now if we didn't give them an opportunity after World War II. Yeah. So I think that we need to give them an opportunity, and let's see. Hey, now listen, if they don't change their ways, then we just walk it back. That's quite simple. It's quite simple.
There's been quite the debate on that, and I know that Colt Knost and Gary Williams had an interview with Greg Norman recently, and he doesn't address a lot of these issues. He doesn't want to get political. He wants to talk about growing the game, talk about the format and how he's going to get the players, because right now it doesn't seem like anyone's committed, or if they are, the NDA answer always comes up. But they've got some really interesting people working on this tour. You got Sean Bratches, formerly F1 managing director, Ron Cross, PGA Tour chief events officer. You got Slugger White, who was an official on the PGA Tour for a number of years. So a lot of interesting characters and people that Greg's put together to make this work. And I think to your point, the format's going to be quite incredible, because it's going to be 54 events. There's only 48 players. Everyone's going to get paid. There's so much money on the table. And I think a lot of players are going to realize when somebody in 500th place makes a check for $3.6 million, the guys are going to be scratching their head and saying, wait a minute, I could go out here and play. They're independent contractors. The problem is they only get 3 vouchers or releases a year, so they might have already used it. And so there's a lot of questions to be answered on how this is going to go. But let's shift gears just for a second. You do a lot of great stuff, Ian. You've been involved with Cerebral Palsy, the Ronald McDonald Association, Stomp the Stigma, which was a suicide prevention program. Anything you're involved with right now as far as organizations or initiatives?
Nothing down here. I'm still, Stomp the Stigma is the foundation, Kyle Brandon Travis Foundation, which myself and Kyle's dad, Bob Travis, started along with Jeremy Taggart from Our Lady Peace, the three of us. Jeremy and I really kind of, got this thing started collectively between the two of us after Bob's son, Kyle, had died by suicide. So it was, Jeremy and I kick-started it, and, with my relationship with Bank of Montreal and Daryl White, they've been a huge support to get this off. We've, raised, close to $1 million in the short term that we've been doing this. Hopefully, Jeremy and I kind of tap all our celebrity friends on the shoulder to come and play. Summit Golf Club is going to do it again this year. Thankfully, they're keeping that alive through the membership. I'd probably say half the field is filled with Summit members. So, I think, and even more so now than ever, I think the mental health and the struggles that, the youth, our children, I don't know if you've got young kids.
I got a 15-year-old,
yeah. So I've got a 17 and a daughter, sophomore in university. So, the world has shifted on them in a very rapid manner where, some of those younger kids that even more so the 6, 7, and 8-year-olds, I mean, I don't know what it looks like when this thing comes out, and a lot of their social skills have been taken away from them from the last 2 years, and how they adapt to a world they come out of. So I don't know. I think there's going to be a substantial increase in a lot of mental health issues. And my hope is that, we are doing a small piece and, opening a dialogue of conversation around this particular topic that parents, can speak to their kids about it, that, suicide isn't a naughty word or, a taboo word that we use. It should be no different than any other illness that a kid goes through, or, you should be able to ask your kid about that, no different than they wake up in the morning and do they have a cold? Right. You should be asking them those questions, and hopefully we can get to a point where people aren't stigmatized by, struggling with their own mental health. And we need to address it early on, because I think we're going to have a groundswell of issues here in the next few years, just primarily because of the social impact on kids due to COVID.
No, I agree.
So anyway, that's what I'm still involved. I'll be back. It's July 11th at the summit again, and I'll be up in Canada, and pulling it together. This year should be an epic year for it. People are wanting to get back together, and when you get back together to do good, it's, you're doubling down on, what we've missed out on over the last 2 years. So hopefully we have an epic year and raise an enormous amount of money this year.
That's fantastic. That's over in Richmond Hill.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm looking at a few things here. It's really interesting how you had a bit of a career as a golf analyst. How did that come about? Working for Sportsnet and Rogers. I'm sure there's an interesting story there where the transition happened into broadcasting and covering events, especially majors, and having opinions and, really an opinion from inside the ropes, because that's what, usually broadcasters want. And that's what the audience wants to hear.
Yeah, I'm still doing some work there. I'm, going to continue on with the radio show, and, obviously COVID, took a lot of the, insider talent away during that time. So a lot of the guys at Sportsnet that were working as insiders weren't allowed in the studio. So they kind of, tabled all of the TV stuff that I was doing. But it was interesting because Keith Pelly was running, Rogers at that particular time. And I had moved back to Canada, working for Wasserman. And Keith had asked me, hey, Keith, by the way, is the guy who actually started the coined the term insider.
Is that
People
right?
don't realize this. Keith is now the CEO of European Tour, has had an incredible life in sports in Canada. But he's the one who coined it with Bob McKenzie when he originally asked, says, hey, who knows more about hockey than a guy who writes about hockey? Let's put him on the air. And so Bob McKenzie was sort of that first insider, they called him, as a hockey insider. Anyway, that's how that happened. He just, hey, we don't have a golf insider at Sportsnet. Why don't you come and do this?
That's very cool.
And that's how it happened. I went into the studio one night and just met with a couple people, and they said, hey, listen, interesting, this is actually quite a funny story. Was I went in and never been on TV in that matter before. I mean, done a lot of TV time and interviews and stuff. But so I'm in the studio, they're showing me around. I mean, with the producer, and the producer goes, hey, we're going to do a hit here in a minute. Why don't you jump on and do the golf hit? I said, sure. So I got on there. I did the golf hit, walked off, and the guy said, oh, that was great. That's fantastic. You can watch it tonight. I said, what do you mean I can watch it tonight? He says, that was live. I had no idea. And I was thinking to myself afterwards, I have a little bit of a, perplexity to use drop a little foul language once in a while. Right. So luckily I didn't use that in the middle of it and, think I messed up something. But anyway, I went from my first hit at Sportsnet was a live hit. And that was it. I kind of, I enjoyed it. I loved doing the show with Scott Metcalf and Weeksy in the beginning. And, Weeksy then moved over to TSN, and Scott and I did the Saturday morning show for about 10 years together, I guess it was. So
that's great.
Anyway, I think we're going to maybe put a little bit of that back together again this year. I'm not sure where we're going, but I'll be back doing radio again. And I enjoy it. I just I'm a fan now. I'm a fan now that's got a little bit more knowledge than most, because I got to play the game, and I got a perspective of playing golf with people that love the game as well. So I who doesn't like talking about golf if you love golf?
There we go.
100%. So I look forward to seeing how this unfolds, and good. And I'd love to ask you your thoughts on the distance measures that have been talked about in the game with the shaft reduction and the latest news. And what's your opinion on these efforts? Do you think it's warranted, or it's just overreach?
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of little torn on this thing. I think what's happened, no different than any other sport in golf, is it falls in line with the NFL and the NHL. Nobody ever thought that the speed of hockey would be played at the pace that it's at now by a guy who's 240 pounds. Nobody thought that a 330-pound lineman could run a 4.750 or 40, right? So, I mean, golf's gotten the same. We're seeing incredible athletes play the game. I think when you look at the impact that Tiger Woods has had on the game of golf, I would not say that his greatest impact to the game of golf has brought minorities into the game. It really has. His biggest impact on the game has been about fitness. And this is what we're seeing now. We're seeing Rory McIlroys and Justin Thomases and Brooks Koepkas and, great athletes playing golf, which has led to speed and, technology advancements in teaching, not only in equipment, materials, has really changed the game. So I'm kind of torn on the other side. Reason why I'm torn on it is the distance guys are hitting it are taking away from the viability of great old golf courses that are just getting demolished. But Usain Bolt ran under 9 seconds. They didn't make the 100-meter, make him run in mud. So, yeah. I mean, they didn't change the track. They didn't, change any of that perspective, or make him, wear high tops instead of, shoes that probably weigh 3 ounces. So I'm kind of torn between the two, that I don't like to see what's happening. Someone like, Joachim Neiman did at Riviera, on a classical golf course like that should be more challenging. Mm-hmm. So to that perspective, I think what I would like to personally see is, I think they should scale the game back for the pros.
Yeah.
You know, make them play with something that makes, you know, the game a bit more challenging, you know, for guys like that. So we can get a little bit more entertainment out of the game. And going back to the Saudi Golf League, to be quite honest with you, I'm hoping that that product brings about some kind of new viewership, because I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm tired of the broadcast. I mean, you know,
we just talked about this
know,
before we went on. We were talking about this week and how most of these broadcasters needs to have a Red Bull because they don't seem enthusiastic. I mean, Faraday, Azinger is great. I mean, you know, looking at guys like Jim Nance and all the regulars who are on, but they're just it's the same old, same old.
Yeah,
like they're knowledgeable. They're knowledgeable, but it's kind of boring sometimes. And you know, we talk about this a lot. So, in your opinion, what do you think could be done on the broadcasting level? Since you have experience in both golf and broadcasting, how could it be you know, more exciting?
Well, I think, I mean, there's some great podcasts out there. I mean, Spitting Chicklets is a great one. I mean, people tune into that because the entertainment value. I mean, bring that into golf. Bring somebody who can bring, you know, some excitement to the game of golf that isn't about golf. Maybe the thing that's amazing to me is, you know, here we have, you know, two guys playing in this playoff this last week, and all they talk about is where their FedEx points are going to take.
Right.
Tell me something about these guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sure, they touched on a bit, was actually entertaining to find out they both played on the Junior Walker Cup team, and they're able to pull some images up on the screen of an old picture of the two of them when they were like 14 or 15 years old. That was actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
Give me more of that. Give me more of, you know, what they do around charity, maybe some, you know, even devastating news or something that,
player
where
profiles.
they are.
You know, I think a lot of the technology is changing. The betting aspect of it is going to make it more exciting. They're going to have live betting. You know, all the fiber optic cables that they're going to be running throughout the golf courses, at the players and other courses. You're going to be able to look at things at real time. The drone footage is pretty exciting. So that type of change, along with the music and the camera angles and different analysis of the game altogether, would be wonderful. You know, if you're just joining us now, we are with Ian Leggatt, PGA Tour winner and Canadian sports legend. We've got something we do that's really fun on the show, Ian. It's called Rapid Fire Questions. We want our audience to get to know you a little bit better, and so we've got some fun questions. Are you ready?
All right.
So first question, your favorite food?
I got two, probably, and they're both ends of the spectrum. I love a great steak. Barbarian Steakhouse in Toronto. That's the one thing. Somebody asked me today about what I miss about being in Canada.
Yeah.
That would be one of the restaurants, and then going to Barbarians is definitely one of them. And, you know, I'm a big sushi fan playing in Japan. So I got both ends of the spectrum. Unfortunately, sushi in Miami is horrible. So I need to get maybe to Vancouver with Mike, and we'll go to Kame Ocean one night for dinner or something, or
anytime. Absolutely, it's still there. So yeah, no, we are spoiled for sushi here in Vancouver. Yeah. So, what about your most memorable round?
You know, this is a good one. You know, you would think it was a PGA Tour event, and this is, I can't really make this a Coles Notes one for you, but this a few years ago, I was playing on tour, and they used to have a Callaway Pro-Am, and I think it was in November, end of the season. And they invite 20 tour players, 20 senior tour players, and 20 LPGA players. And you played in a Pro-Am format. So I got there a day early, and the course was closed for practice rounds at Pebble. And so I think the last tee time was 10 o'clock in the morning. It's now around noon. And the pro came up to me at Pebble, who I knew well, and he said, "Hey, you know, Lego, can you do me a favor? And I got a guy here who missed his tee time this morning, and I can't let him out because he's not in the tournament. And I'm all by myself." He says, "You mind taking him out?" I said, "Sure, no problem. Take him out." Most perfect day you've ever seen at Pebble. It's 70 degrees, 72 degrees, not a breath of wind. Ocean looked like, you know, glass. anyway, this guy comes to the tee. He's got his clubs didn't arrive, and he's got a set of, rentals and a dozen golf balls. And we go to the tee. I introduce myself and ask him what his handicap is. And he says he's a 12 handicap. And he says to me, so I just said, hey, listen, I'm going to play back here where the back tees. I said, you should maybe play, up there on the whites. You'll enjoy it much better. So he does. And off we go. And he pars the first hole. And it's beautiful out. And this guy's probably in his 70s, I would say. And he's got this green old sweater on, horrible old sweater. Anyway, he pars the first hole, and he's sweating like you wouldn't believe. So pars the second hole. So here he is. He's even par after 2. He bogeys 3 and pars 4. And this guy is sweating so badly, I thought I'm going to maybe have to resuscitate him at some point in time. So I said to him, are you sure you don't want to take that sweater off? And he really quickly says, I'm not taking the sweater off, very matter-of-factly. So we're standing on the 7th tee, and he's actually starting to sweat through the sweater. That's how hard this guy's sweating. And I said to him, are you sure you don't want to take that sweater off? And he says, let me tell you something. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi, and I'm a catfish farmer, 3rd generation. Said, my dad is 97 years old, and he's lying in a hospital bed right now. And he said he paid for me to come out here and play Pebble Beach because this has been a dream for him. I'm flying out here to play Pebble, and I hope I get back in time before he dies so I can tell him all about it.
Amazing.
He said this is his favorite sweater.
Wow, that's a great
we talk
story.
about why we play the game and how the people we meet.
Yeah.
That to this day still makes the hair stand up on my arms when I tell that story. And I would say that has to be probably one of my most memorable stories in the game of golf.
And that,
Cool.
and it's experiences like that makes us, stay with the game and share our stories and bring people into the game. And, and this, I guess this brings me into the next question for your ultimate foursome. Now, we're going to remove the family aspect of it because a lot of people would say, if you could play with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be? But we got to remove the family aspect of it. Who would you play with, and what course would it be on?
So, I've got 2 people that, number one, I don't, wouldn't have played golf or do play golf. So for me, my ultimate foursome, many years ago, I got to shake hands when I was playing in South Africa with Nelson Mandela. So knowing he's a golfer, Nelson Mandela, Ben Hogan was always sort of my, I guess, favorite player, of that generation, of the old generation, and Seve Ballesteros. That would probably be my golfing foursome of people that I'd ever want to play with. The other list is way, way too long to even start in all the people that I would love to have just, whether they play golf or not, but spend 4 hours with. Just take the 4-hour timetable and get to spend 4 hours with someone. I say that with my staff here. Playing golf with the members is the most important thing we do every single day, because we get to spend 4 hours of knowing almost everything about them. That helps create that relationship that allows us to provide a great experience for them every single day. So
very cool.
What course would that be on, Ian? If you had
Cypress Point.
Cypress Point.
Cypress Point.
Absolutely.
That's my favorite place to play. Cypress Point, Pine Valley are in the world are 1A and 1AA, I guess.
So I'm curious because I've got thinning fescue myself. So at what point did you transition to
I always tell people that the fight is over. Give up the fight. Get the razor out and take care of it.
How many years has it been now?
It's been a long time. I started shaving my head just near the end of my golf career on the PGA Tour. So probably back in 2008, I think I started using clippers and using it down to a 1 first, and then I started shaving just right after that and never looked back. So good to know. It's you almost got a Tim Rosafort look going with the glasses. I know. Yeah, awesome.
Well, it's pretty great. You played in, I guess, a couple of majors. I'm looking at the sheet here. You didn't get a chance to play the Masters. and
No.
you didn't get a chance to play the Open. Is that something you look back on and regret a little bit? Because you did play the PGA and you played a couple of U.S. Opens. Your best finish was an amazing T20, I think. It was a 20. I think
That's
it was
right.
a T20. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I played in 4 or 5 U.S. Opens, and I should have actually, tell you the truth, I know 20 sounds like a stretch, but, the way I played that week from a stats perspective, I should have won that Open. I mean, I think I finished last in putting that week. I led the tour in total driving and greens and regulation, and around a U.S. Open golf course, that should give you an opportunity to win. I think someone looked at the stats for me. I think if I finished 42nd in putting that week, I would have beat Furyk by a shot. So
yeah, Furyk won that.
I look
That's
back
right.
on that, and that was a week where I really felt good about my game. And, I think I was 5th or 6th going into the final day, and just, really struggled, to really keep it together. But other than that, the Masters, not getting in the Masters, they had a period there for about 2 or 3 years where they took the winners category away. So again, unfortunate not to do that. I qualified for the Open at Carnoustie and didn't go. I look more at, just the British is the only one that I wish I did take the opportunity to go over and play. It never lined up with either injuries or the timing of qualifying at that particular time. So, that was the one I qualified for Carnoustie the year that Paul Lowry ended up that Vondervelde debacle. So
Yeah.
I look back at that week and thank God I wasn't there, but look back now, maybe I wish I was there, but just to say I played it. I don't know if I want to go out there and struggle around there and shoot 85 2 days in a row, but that could have happened. But again, playing in a few more majors would have been nice.
Any thoughts of Champions Tour, throwing the odd event in, or any competitiveness whatsoever? Or?
Maybe now I think I may see how it goes. I'm on a different schedule now where I've got sort of the summers off. I still work at the club here, but it's a completely different, my schedule's flipped now from, having winters off to, before I would have liked to, maybe get an exemption into the Shaw. Or maybe, try to qualify for the U.S. Senior Open, which I will this year. So, but again, I don't have the time between TV and working, at Summit or St. George's. I just never had the time to take a week off in the summer. So, or even take any time to work on my game to prepare for it. So I do have that ability now. So we'll see. I'm 56 now. Yeah. So, I'm in good. I feel like I'm in good shape. I just need to play golf more than once a week. That's all.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Well, you look great. The Champions Tour is kind of elevated. All these guys are coming on right now. All the old players that we kind of, Mike and I grew up with, and you grew up with, watching and playing. You played in an era where Mickelson and Tiger were reigning. I guess that's one of my questions, if you had a chance to play with Tiger, but it's really great to hear. We'd be cheering you on, Ian, if you got on tour. We'd love to see you on the Champions Tour. We follow it religiously. We had Rob Labritz on the other week and talked about his journey.
He's played well so far.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
Yeah.
He's kind of averaging in the high 20s, finishing 33rd, between 33rd and 21st place. If you could eliminate a couple of bogeys off his score, he's a birdie machine. Yeah. And
I think I would like to play. I think I just see. Again, my injuries haven't allowed me to really work hard on my game. There's times when I get playing, a few days in a row or stuff like that, and I can still get it around. So I would like to do it just to, to have another moment of competing and also get out there and see a lot of the guys that I played with, just to hang out with them for a week. And, but it definitely is not a thought of any kind of career shift. I enjoy what I do now. And, I think I'm still having an impact on the game and the things that I'm doing now. So.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Leggatt Country Club. Saw some pictures online. Looks like a beautiful place, and could run us through a day in your life there.
Yeah, it's a busy club this time of year. Most of the members are from up north, so a lot of New York, New Jersey, Chicago members, a lot of Shinnecock members, and, you know, Hampton, that type of membership. Very affluent. People that love the game. It's a golf club. So people love to play golf here. It's a, you know, lot of, you know, people take a lot of golf lessons, and they, you know, just really utilize the club specifically only for the golf course. So there's only 2 private clubs in Miami Beach. So, you know, we've sort of got the market cornered here in that respect. So, I mean, I'm at the club most days. You know, like I said, I'm a hard worker. I'm a 10 to 12 hour a day guy, some day longer, which is the typical life of a golf pro. So, and that's, you know, I'm the director of golf, general manager here. So I'm running the whole facility. So it's busy.
Hey, if you need a handy and I'm out there, I'll make my way out there. Got to get away from this cold. We've been locked down for quite some time. You know, we're running
a few Canadians down, so it's a good spot. It's a good spot. So
awesome,
yeah, fantastic.
You know, we're running low on time. We're 55 minutes in. I'm going to throw out some names here, and I want you to tell me what stands out to you. Which player? John Rahm, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, Scotty Scheffler, Cameron Smith, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, Hideki Matsuyama. Going into the Masters, any of those kind of really jump out at you?
I think John Rahm, you know, arguably is the best player in the world right now. I think, and he wants it more than anybody, you know, and, you know, I think, you know, you always like to grab that guy who won last week because you see him at his best. But I think Sam Burns is really, he's got that same type of mentality where, you know, I don't look at people that like to win. I like to look at people that hate to lose. Right. And those two guys have that mentality where I don't necessarily see that in Patrick Cantlay. Great player. I think he's the guy who likes to win. I've always said the greatest athletes and businessmen in the world are people that hate to lose, and that's a byproduct of that mentality is winning. I saw it with Tiger Woods when I played with him. I saw that was Michael Jordan's thinking. Wayne Gretzky definitely is a guy who hates to lose, and I think that you know, I don't think Wayne Gretzky ever went into the NHL thinking he's going to be the greatest player of all time. That was not it. It just that ended up being a byproduct of his extreme dislike of losing, and he dragged everybody along with him. I think, you know, Jordan did that as a team perspective, and I know for sure that Tiger Woods and Ben Hogan were exactly like that. Two guys that hate to lose, and I see that in John Rahm. That's a guy who hates to lose every time he goes out there. So I like the way he plays the game. I think he's a great putter. He doesn't have a weakness in his game other than maybe the mental hurdle, which I think getting married and having a child has calmed him down a little bit. So he would definitely be on the top of my list of someone who's going to win there. And a guy who's already called it out as someone who wants to win more majors than Tiger. So I love that thinking.
You know, if you're looking at the Canadian players and the roster, I mean, back when we were watching you play, there was you, Mike, Steven, and a couple other guys, you know, a little bit older, Zokol and whatnot. There weren't too many guys. Now we're looking at a massive list of players in and out of the game over the last several years. You know, Corey Connors, Mackenzie Hughes, Adam Hadwin, Adam Svensson, Taylor Pendrith, David Hearn, who's kind of tailing off right now, is getting a little older, but, you know, Michael Glickich, Roger Sloan, Nick Taylor. It's great that I could actually name a dozen players that are on and off tour.
And you missed a couple too, which is amazing.
Yeah, I did.
Jared Dutois.
Yeah, we had Jared Dutois on the show. It's nice. He's still grinding it out, he made that Torrey Pines event this year. He made the qualifier, didn't make the cut, but it's great to see him. And it was great talking to him and getting his perspective. Your thoughts on Canadian golf and your relationship with Canadian golfers?
Yeah, I have a good relationship to this day with a lot of them. You know, I keep in touch with Taylor. He was a member at Summit. I gave him a membership there when he was on the national team. You know, I'm always keeping in touch, texting with guys and stuff like that. There isn't a week that goes by on the PGA Tour now that we very, very seldom don't see a Canadian flag in the top 10. So my thinking on it, if Corey Connors can figure out a way to be a better putter, he's a top 10 player in the world and he's winning 3 or 4 times a year. Taylor Pendrith, in my mind, will potentially be the best male Canadian player that's ever played the game when he's done. If he can stay healthy, the kid has unbelievable talent. That he doesn't have a weakness. His weakness right now is getting comfortable on the PGA Tour. Once he gets comfortable on the PGA Tour, I'm just telling you right now, the way that this guy plays the game, there is no weakness. As soon as he gets, a foot in the door, kind of threw up on himself this year at Bermuda. But again, he got himself in the door, and now he knows what that feels like, that he'll learn from the next time around. So hits it off the end of the earth, has an incredible short game, is a good putter. He just needs to get comfortable. As soon as he does, and Adam is finding his game again through a massive swing change of working with Mark Blackburn. So he's a very methodical type player who has to rely on his short game. So he's going to pick away at certain events that he's going to do well at. But again, I think, Adam Svensson is a talent on his own. He's rededicated himself. So I love it. My concern is, where are the women coming from? Where's the next wave coming from? Because this wave was huge. Yeah. You talk about, Corey and Mackenzie and Taylor and Adam. They all came from the same wave of players. I just want to know where the next wave is coming from. I think that Kevin Blue at Golf Canada is going to do an incredible job to keep that going. So I'm excited for the future. I'm a little, I don't want to say disappointed. I'm just curious of where our women are coming from behind Brooke, because I don't see any. Monty is a nice player, but I just don't see a lot of them. So
there's the Vancouver Golf Tour out here on the West Coast done a great job. I don't know if you know Fraser Mulholland, but they produced Svensson and Taylor and Hadwin and Sloan played out here. Christine Wong is been kicking ass out there. Will she catch up to Brooke? That's yet to be said. But definitely would be great to see more Canadian women out on LPGA.
Maddie Sherrick just got her card as well, so looking forward to seeing her out on tour. Well, we're a little low on time. We'd love to end the cast with funny or embarrassing golf stories. You could mention a notable person or not, but we've all had our embarrassing moments on a golf course. And so if you could think
tell us yours.
Yeah, I got to run as well. I got a call here 2 minutes ago. But I don't really know. I mean, there's been a lot of embarrassing moments. I mean, probably my most embarrassing moment happened in Vancouver. I was, I think, 5th or 6th going into the final round of the Canadian Junior at Vancouver Golf Club and slept in and missed my tee time.
Oh, wow.
That took a long time. I didn't sleep for very much after that.
Ouch.
That was a long, long time ago. I think I was only 15 years. So that was 41 years ago, and I still remember it. So.
Wow. So you mean you couldn't get a police escort like Rory did years ago?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
my God. Ouch. Okay.
Well, Ian, we wish you all the best. Thanks for coming on the show. It means a lot to us and to our listeners and viewers. Hopefully we're going to get this out there. And for Ian Leggatt, Michael Bleackley, I'm Rafael Kalamat. You've been listening to the Golf Podcast Live. Very special thanks to Drinkwell, Upper Hand, Cards and Collectibles, and of course ECS. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Gabe.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
That was amazing.
That was awesome, Ian. Thank you so much.
Thanks for all your time. Really appreciate it. Maybe we'll get around it and we'll send you off some info too. And if you get a chance, if you could share it on your social media, that'd be awesome.
I'll do it. No problem.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. Amazing.
Right.
If you're ever in Vancouver, sushi and around.
All right.
Let's do it.
I'm in. I'm on my way. Thanks.
Excellent.
Cheers, brother.
All right.
Okay, take care, Ian.
All right.
Bye.
Hello? Oh, can you see me still on the phone? Okay. So that means it's recorded, right? If you could see it on YouTube, is that what you're saying?